grade 12s, we have finally gotten to some calculus. Now, this is the only new topic that is, in a sense, introduced in grade 12s. And it's also going to be one of the topics that count the most towards your final mark. Now, if you take a look, that this differential calculus normally counts about 35 out of your 150 marks. Now, that is then divided into questions where you simply just differentiate, questions where you have to apply some of your differentiation, and so to answer questions about cubic functions, and then finally some optimization questions. Now, in your June 2022 exam, we started off with question number 7, and in this case they just wanted you to apply or to differentiate a few things. So use your calculus knowledge to find the derivatives of something. Now, question 7.1 starts off and it asks you to determine the derivative of f from first principles if the function f of x is equal to minus 2x squared plus x. The fact that they say first principles here must immediately let this formula jump into your mind. So the first derivative is equal to the limit as h tends to 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x over h. Now, remember, to find f of x plus h, we simply just take f of x, and everywhere we see an x, we replace it with f of or x plus h. So f of x was minus 2x squared plus x. Therefore, f of x plus h would be minus 2 times x plus h squared plus x plus h. So everywhere where I saw x, I replaced it with x plus h. Now, I like to do the f of x plus h separately from the first principles formula, just because it's going to let all those fractions look a little bit less messy. So if we simplify f of x plus h, we then start by multiplying or simplifying or expanding these brackets. So it's x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus x plus h. We multiply the 2 in, so we have minus 2x squared minus 4xh minus 2h squared plus x plus h. And in this case, we can't simplify any further, meaning we now have f of x, we have f of x plus h. So now we can substitute it into my first principles formula. Now remember to keep on writing down the limit as h tends to 0 until you finally replace h with 0. So f of x plus h is going to be minus 2x squared minus 4xh minus 2h squared plus x plus h minus, open bracket, minus 2x squared plus x all over h. From there we continue simplifying. So we have minus 2x squared minus x squared minus 4xh minus 2h squared plus x plus h minus, the minus times the minus gives me a plus, so plus 2x squared minus x over h. Now we see if there's any like terms that can cancel, and in this case we have that the minus 2x squared can be cancelled by the plus 2x squared, and the x minus the x can cancel out, and we're left with 4xh minus 2h squared plus h. Now once you've reached this step of the simplification, if you have any terms in the numerator that still has an h, you need to go back and make sure of signs and so, because if something is differentiable, we should not have any things that does not have h's in the numerator once we get to this step. From there, we can now try to factor out a common factor, which in this case would just be a h. so that the h in the denominator can be cancelled by the h we just took out as a common factor. So then the limit of h tends to 0 would be minus 4x minus 2h plus 1. It is safe to substitute in the 0 now. So we have minus 4x minus 2 times 0 plus 1. Then we have minus 4x plus 1. If you did not use first principles and you immediately jump to the answer, you would not get any of your marks because they did say using first principles. Okay. Now, the next question now asks you, okay, determine the derivative of minus 5x over square root of x minus x squared over 5. Now, in this case, we are going to remember we can find a derivative if there's a x, or what we have to derive is in the denominator. So we need to shift it up to the numerator first before we can find the derivative. Now with this notation that we have here, we need to keep writing the dx and the block brackets until we finally find the derivative. Now this square root x in the denominator, we don't want that, so we're going to have to try to get it to the top, to the numerator. But before we do that, we know that the square root of x can just be written as x to the power of a half minus x squared over 5. Then using our exponential laws, we know that we can take exponent and its base to the top of the fraction as long as we change the sign of the exponent. So this then becomes minus 5x minus 5x times x to the power of negative a half minus x squared over 5. From there we can use exponential laws. We have numbers multiplying with the same basis, so we can add the exponents. So it becomes minus 5x to the power of a half minus x squared over 5. From there it is now safe to take the derivative because we don't have any x's in my denominators anymore. And to take the derivative the quick way, remember if we have a x to the power of n, we take the exponent, we multiply it with a number in front of the x, so then it becomes a times n to the times x to the power of n, and we subtract 1 from the exponent. So the minus 5 to x to the power of a half then becomes minus 5 over 2, and then if we take 1 and we subtract it from a half, it gives me negative a half. So minus 5 over 2 x to the power of negative a half. And with the x squared over 5, it becomes 2 over 5x. We take the 2, we multiply it with the 1 over 5, and we subtract 1 from the exponent. Now, we normally like to keep writing, we don't want any negative exponents. So we know that a half is the same as the square root, and the negative meaning it needs to go down to the denominator. So we have 5 over 2 square root of x minus 2 over 5x. And that would then be our derivative. The next question asks you, okay, find the derivative of x plus 2 over x, in brackets, open brackets, x minus 2 over x, close the brackets. Now in this case, this is simply just, if you take a careful look at it, both bracket looks the same. One is a plus, one has a minus. So this is just difference of two squares. Now remember, we like to differentiate using the quick method if we only have one term plus a term plus a term plus a term. We don't want any multiplications or brackets like we have in this case. So we need to expand the brackets first, and since it's difference of two squares, it will just expand to x squared minus 4 over x squared. And once again, we don't want this x to the power of 2 in the denominator, so we use our exponents or exponential rules to bring it up, so it becomes minus 4x to the power of negative 2 close bracket, and now it's safe to do the derivative or find the derivative. So we take the 2, we multiply it with whatever is in front of the x squared, which is 1. So we have 2x minus 4 times minus 2 gives me 8. X to the power of minus 2 times minus 1 gives me minus 3. And we like to write it so that our exponents are positive, so it becomes 2x plus 8 over x to the power of 3. And that will then be it. Now, just as a little bit of a bee pun, what did the mama bee say to her baby bees? Believe in yourself and your abilities, which is something that we all need to do if we want to be successful.